3, 2, 1.
Hi, in this video of practical tips for rocket engineering, we're going to be looking at some of the cleaning agents that we use for cleaning our fixtures and fittings in our rocket engines and feed systems, and some of the dangers particularly of using oxygen as an oxidizer, and some of the things that we have to look out for in that scenario. So you might have in your propulsion system pipework, fixtures and fittings for those pipe works, okay, and fixtures to actually bring those pipes together. Now, you shouldn't just put any old pipes together that you find in your lab, okay. You need to think a little bit carefully around them, especially if you're using oxidizers like oxygen. So before we go into cleaning in a bit more detail, let's talk a little bit about some of the hazards with oxygen and oxygen use. So oxygen and pure oxygen is a very good oxidizer, and it will easily ignite with substances it comes in contact with, especially at high pressures and at high flows. So if you were just to get your fittings from the manufacturers, in this case Swagelok, and you didn't ask them to be cleaned, there is potential that there might be lubricant, greases, or even dirt or dust on the inside of these fixtures and fittings. So if you were to have high pressure, high flow rate oxygen going over them, there is a chance that it will ignite. Now, in substances like steel, okay, and this is one of the reasons why we never use steel in oxygen gas feed lines, is that a small amount of dust or lubricants, which then catches on fire, that burns at extremely high temperatures and is enough to actually burn through steel tubing, and that is therefore a big fire risk. So the oxygen will flow over, will ignite the lubricant or the grime or the dust, causing it to burn very brightly and at very high temperatures, causing the stainless steel to melt, or you might have a blowout in your feed system because of it. So we need to make sure that we clean our equipment very carefully, especially if we're using oxygen. And really, if we are using oxygen, we should be thinking about using other materials other than stainless steel. There are particular metals that you can use, but you also have to think about the different pressures that you're using with it. But if you're using low pressures of oxygen, then copper tubing, okay, is good enough as long as it's cleaned properly, and also brass fittings as well. If you're using other gases like nitrous oxide, then stainless steel tubing will be good for your oxidizers. When it comes to cleaning fixtures and fittings, the main cleaning agent we tend to use is isopropanol. And you've got a couple of different choices for the rags or the cloths that you use. You could use normal kind of cleaning cloth. So what you would do is you would get your isopropanol, squeeze a little bit onto there, making sure that you're in a nice ventilated space, okay, and then you could just slowly wipe the surfaces, okay, and just making sure to remove any grease or grime that you have, all right. But sometimes blue cloth can sometimes tear on you, especially if you vigorously clean it. And so you might get some bits of blue cloth effectively coming off in your fixtures and fittings. Another type of cleaning rag that you might want to use is lint-free wipes, okay? And these are specifically designed, okay, not to fray when cleaning. So yet again, we would get our isopropanol, okay, put a nice healthy dose on, okay, and then really get it in there, and then give it a nice wipe and a nice clean. Once you've given it a nice wipe, all right, give it a few, sort of maybe 30 seconds, a couple of minutes, okay, just to air dry, and then that fixture and fitting will be good to go for the majority of operations that you have. However, if you are going to be using oxygen in your feed systems, you must use copper or brass fittings or other materials which are compatible with oxygen at high pressures and at high flow rates. So here we've got a brass fitting, and although you could use isopropanol if you're in a tight fix, okay, and you give it a good few washes in isopropanol, that could be done. Best practice or better practice is to use an ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, so you would get your fixtures and fittings, you would pop them in your ultrasonic bath, add the required cleaning agents to do that, and then you would run it through the ultrasonic cleaner. That way you are pretty much guaranteed to get rid of all of those lubricants and grime on your fittings. Very, very important when dealing with oxygen as an oxidizer. So in this video, we've covered the cleaning agents and some of the things that you might want to consider when cleaning your parts for your rocket engine, especially some of the dangers when dealing with oxygen. Okay? If you like this video, then please like and subscribe.